anybody listening right now, how often do you check your guidance system?
Yeah.
Whew. How long have you been off course? What feedback are you receiving to correct your course? And how are you piloting your life?
Get around those obstacles and make room to create opportunities. You are listening to the Around the Way podcast. And now, your hosts, Kyle King and Kiana Williams.
Welcome to another episode of Around the Way podcast, where we help you get around your obstacles and find a way to redesign your life. We are back with an amazing topic. Are you at a place where you feel like you're putting in a lot of work? You feel like you've been working on something for a long time, but you just don't see the stats. You just don't see the success. You just don't see, maybe you're in a relationship. Maybe you're in a relationship and you've been putting in the work, you've been dating, you've been going out, you've been spending time, you've been talking, but you just don't have that spark, that feeling. Or maybe you're building a business. Maybe you're wanting to be that entrepreneur, you're putting time in, but you're just not getting clients to convert. That's what we're going to talk about today. We have something absolutely amazing planned for you. And the overall goal of our presentation of our podcast today, right? And I say presentation because we want to always be able to present you with new ideologies and help you acknowledge and reflect and recognize the things that you're not looking at or maybe even overlooking, so that you can begin to understand that life is, it's not a scoreboard. Life is not a scoreboard. So before we even how are you feeling today, Kiana?
I feel good. I feel good today. Tired, but I feel good.
It's been a crazy last few weeks. Literally like traveling all over the place, back and forth.
Driving at that.
No, literally.
Not just traveling, but driving up and down the coast.
Literally driving. Making my way downtown. Like literally. So I feel like this has been a interesting week. Right. Mm-hmm. Today was a super amazing day. So shout out to my son, Carter. He scored his first point. Wow. Let me tell you something. From his first game to his third game, he just started playing basketball, for anybody who didn't know. And he's 5. And from his first game to today, his third game.
A whole different child.
Like a whole different child. He was more aggressive. He was getting rebounds. He was getting steals. He was pushing people, getting fouls. We're going to count it, though. We're going to, he was a little bit aggressive. That's what we're just going to say. But he had that spark. He had that glow. And, it kind of inspired me today to talk about that, right? And I think, something that I posted, it was saying that, my son scored his first point, and but a lot of people didn't see the month of training. Like we've been training like we prepared for the Olympics for the last 3-4 weeks. And, it's frustrating because he in the first 2 games, he was prepared physically, but mentally and emotionally, he was nervous. He was crying. He wasn't walking, running up and down the court. Yeah. The second game, he came out of shell a little bit towards the end. But I feel like today, he was
like a whole different child.
Right? And what that brings to me, right, and where I want to kind of just take this conversation today, and then we'll be able to flow from there, is that there's so many people that are watching the scoreboard. There's so many people that. Carter didn't score a point. He didn't even take a shot the first 2 games. He didn't get a steal. He didn't get a rebound. Nothing. But I think so many times people look at those 2 games as a reflection on the whole preparation process, right? Because they didn't score, because they didn't get that opportunity, because that person didn't ask them to marry them, they just want to give up, But I'm so proud of him because he was resilient. He was uncomfortable at times. He was nervous at times. He wanted to give up playing the sport at times. But he got out there, and when he scored his first shot, when he dribbled up the court, traveled a little bit, but when he dribbled up the court and shot the shot, it was like when it left his hand, everybody was silent because we were all waiting on what's happening here. And then when it went in, I heard everybody screaming, but I looked at him, and then he looked at me, and then he had a smile that I was like, good job, buddy. So it was like that sense of confidence. And I think so many people quit before they get that moment, right? Why is that?
So I see, I have a couple thoughts based on what you said. I think the mistake that a lot of people make is assuming that what they're doing right now is good enough. And I don't mean to say that in a pessimistic way, but one of the quotes that you say all the time that I like so much is activity doesn't equal achievement. Right. And so resilience is great. Like, that's great to get back on and do. You have to do something different, though. Like, the people that actually win the game, they've mastered the skill. So they're now able to apply those same skills to actually win now. So yeah, there's some time that goes into learning the skills. So maybe that is how to prospect, how to write emails, how to do all these things. But if what you're doing right now isn't working, you may have the right skills. You may need to apply them differently.
Ooh, talk to me. So it's because
I
know you're in this kind of the same place right now. You have, you're probably one of the most gifted people that I know.
Thank you.
But I feel like the scoreboard doesn't show that.
Yeah.
It doesn't reflect that, right? There's a lot of skilled people, but maybe you're in the wrong position. Maybe you're in the wrong industry. Maybe you're just applying. I like what you said, applying those skills in the wrong place.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about that.
I think that definitely is like where I'm at now, where I think I had all the right ideas and all the right gifts. Who video was that you sent me the other day? And they were saying that,
shout out to my boy, Kenny Conwell.
Is that who it was? And he was like, God, was it him that was like, God is giving you all the gifts you just had? I think it was Jeremy Anderson.
It wasn't Kenny. Shout out to Kenny, too. It was Jeremy Anderson. Shout out to my bro, Jeremy.
Yeah, he's like, God has already given you all the gifts that you need. And that's definitely me. Like, he's giving me. He was
talking about, like, faith without work is dead.
Yeah, it's like, he was like, God might not give you. What did he say? He may not give you the table, but he gave you the tree. So now it's up to you to take that tree and turn it into a table.
Facts.
And so I think that's me, where I think a lot of times God is pushing me to work bigger. I think there are so many people that it's great. They operate on a small scale and it really, really works for them. And it's like, I'm hustling these books and I'm selling these books and I'm selling these courses, and they're like in this hustle mentality. God won't let that work for me, because I think the responsibility is bigger for me. So I think he's now pushing me into, yeah, Kiana, you can write a great book that transforms people, but I'm not going to let those people see the value in that. I need you to go bigger and get it at a bigger scale, because what I've created for you is bigger. So that's the realization that I'm coming to, is like, what works for other people, as you've seen, it doesn't work for me.
Facts.
But that doesn't mean that my value is less than them. It means that my assignment is different, and I think it's bigger than what I see other people.
I love that, what you just said, right? You said, if it doesn't work for me, that doesn't mean that I shouldn't be working for it or working towards it, right? It's kind of like, if it doesn't work for me, that doesn't mean that I still need to put in the work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You need to like reevaluate and see, is that goal that you're chasing after what you're supposed to be? Like, is that in alignment with where he's sending you? Or is that the easiest goal that you saw, and so that's what you chased after?
So I guess I love what you said. So talk to me, the person that's listening right now, that's, right here in the episode, that's like, all right, I hear you, Kiana. And maybe I'm even at the same place that kind of we were talking about earlier, where, I'm trying, but how do I open and widen my perspective to see like what area that this would work in? Could you give more so of an actionable step by step on how that person could go from, damn, this isn't working, to, damn, like this is purpose?
I think that the exposure piece is what needs to happen. We just had a conversation about that on Friday, where it's like, and kind of what we talked about with your Authors Elite group and PM30, your ceiling is going to be located wherever you've been exposed to. Like, your ceiling is never going to be higher than what you've seen around you. So if you're around people who at the height of their career are making $40,000 a year, which is average.
No, facts.
That's where your ceiling is going to be, because you've never seen anything bigger than that.
Yeah, it's interesting, because when you said, like, yeah, we were talking about that. Like, I'm happy over $200,000 quarter until we was talking to somebody that had a $200,000 month.
Yeah, and then it's like, wait a minute, so that's possible,
and
this is somebody that I actually can have a conversation with and like learn from. And like when you were talking about 10xing your business, I said, okay, well, who has a business like what you want?
Facts.
Because that's where now you need to be spending your time.
I want to tell everybody, anybody listening right now, right? I want you to create a big picture vision map right? Big picture vision map. Write that down. Big picture vision map. I want you to identify where you want to be, who you want to be, and like what your lifestyle is within the next 3 to 5 years. And, you know, like for me, I'll give you the game right now. So when I'm thinking about my business model, I'm thinking about like, we're going to have 4 different departments. We're going to have accounting and finance, marketing and sales, customer experience. I could talk about all that on another podcast another day. And then we're going to have what? Operations? Yeah, operations and human resources, right?
Marketing already.
Yeah. So when I think through all of these different things, what I then did is I asked questions. You know, who's handling payroll? Why are we paying people weekly versus biweekly versus monthly? What is the cost savings? Who's doing the taxes? How can we, you know, leverage assets so that we minimize taxes? So every single question that you would potentially have, I want you to really dive deep. And this doesn't even just have to apply to business. This could literally apply to anything.
Yeah.
So like, think about a relationship. Like, who's taking out the trash? Who's cooking? You know, who's picking up the kids?
What are your expectations?
You know, do we have more kids? You know,
Yeah.
what are we going to name our kids? All these different things, right? And if you really get intentional and just write down the questions, because so many times we think about the answers when it's time to give the answers, but we've never reflected on the questions. So now we're answering from a place of emotion, but not really a place of planning, preparation, and the process that it took to get to that place where we can effectively and intentionally answer the question, right? So what I want anybody to do is to create a big picture vision map. Ask all of the questions. Write them all down. Get a Google document out. Write all the questions down from them different ages or stages or areas of your life, right? And what I want you to do is identify actions that would align with those different things. That's your how. But before you do the how, I want you to identify people in your network. We're going to go there first. In your network that are experts, not just doing it, experts, and have the results that align with that lifestyle that you see in 3 to 5 years.
And that, like he said, that could be relationship or that could be professional, because if you're saying that my goal is to be somebody's wife or somebody's husband, but nobody in your circle is a wife or a husband.
How do we find that person? Because I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were like, I was giving them this game, right? And then they were like, well, when I look through everything, you're the only person that I have for one of these areas, but all of the other areas, I don't have anybody, and I don't know how to find those people. Where do you find those people? Talk to us.
And so that is a problem. That is a problem first, because you're not going to be able to crack your ceiling if the people around you are at the ceiling where it currently is. You know, you're not going to be able to see past that. So I'm going to say first, if they're not in your circle, you're going to have to look outside of your circle. You're going to have to find people that maybe you know of, because we all know of people like. And this is the thing that Kyle is really, really great at in terms of making connections with people that he doesn't know, getting into rooms that he doesn't currently have access to. And so whether it's
access to all the rooms.
So it may be somebody that you see on social media. Madi posted something, he posted often actually, where he was saying like your timeline should be inspirational, educational, and then a little bit of entertainment. It's okay to unfollow people if they're not like in your area, and follow people that are. So like anybody that follows me, if you're feeling like I need more people in my arena that are motivational, inspirational, and talk about the things that you talk about, you can reach out to me.
Can I pause right there? Can we give them like a slap check? I don't even know the proper term. Before you start unfollowing all the people that are currently in your network, and before you start following all these people that you would want to be like, I need you to take a mental note, an emotional check, and a trauma check so that you don't look at these people and then it creates insecurities, it creates jealousy, it creates envy, right? Let's check that first. Because when I intentionally have done it, I look at all these people as like, I share all the stuff with you. It's oh my God, look
all
at his wedding.
Yeah.
I want to do my wedding like that. Oh, look at that car. I want to do that. And it's not more so like, oh my God, I don't have this. It's more so like, this is possible.
It's a mindset shift.
So you have to shift the mind before you actually act in what shift your mind before you act within the intention.
Yeah, because it doesn't help you to go follow a whole bunch of people and you're like now feeling bad about yourself and like now you might as well stay following who you were following. But it may be the people in your immediate network that are making you even feel like this person is like a threat to you rather than a motivational. It's the same.
It's the same.
Yeah. It's just certain people take it as a threat. Other people take it as motivation.
Like for me, man, and I want you to continue to answer that question. For me, I follow all of my competitors because like, I don't even look at them as competitors. I don't know. I look at them as inspirations. Like in somebody in my specific lane, if I'm doing 125 a month, but that person is doing 250 a month, I'm like, well, maybe that person's marketing or messaging, or let me go check out their funnels, or who are the type of clientele that they're working with, or not even from that perspective. I'm trying to be this amazing man. Well, what are the characteristics or the qualities or the captions or all these different things, right? So I think for me, it's really, I feel like Instagram has exposed me to all of the possibilities. Like shout out to Marcus Barney for just now buying a private jet. I think, we look at Grant Cardone and Gary Vee and all these other people and, Devon Franklin and all these greats. But when he showed that he bought a private jet, it's like, wow, my first thought was like, not this dude. Yeah. It was like, wow, it's possible.
Yeah.
Like now I know that it's possible. Maybe I can, I'm 28 now. He's in his 30s. What can I do so that moving forward, I can have me a private jet where, me, my wife, and my kids are in a few years flying private everywhere or renting out the private jet and chartering it to other people. So I think for me, I'm now at the mental space where I can look at stuff like that. And it's like when I was on the phone with Jeremy yesterday and he was just running his numbers and running his business model and running all the people that he has on staff. And I'm like, yo, so I asked him, I was like, look, how much is it going to cost me to come to Atlanta and spend a week with you? He said, look, I can't give you a week. He was like, but I can give you I can give you 2 days and it won't cost you nothing. So hopefully I can say that on air. But the beautiful thing about it is that relationships has helped me build those tables.
And that's the thing. I think you're a great person to talk about that because people will hear that and run with it. But I think the goal is to build relationships with people that motivate you. Because all relationships are not beneficial, Yeah, it's like you can have relationships with all types of people, and who's actually pushing you, who's keeping you stagnant, who's motivating you, who's bringing you back to old behaviors and habits. Like all those things are important. And if you see someone who motivates you, you can nurture a relationship with that person, whether or not you currently know them right now.
No, facts. Yo, it was a quote from the book, what was that? Willpower Doesn't Work from Ben Hardy. And the quote said, shout out to Dan Sullivan. It was like, surround yourself with people that remind you of your future, not people that remind you of your past.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie. I've heard a lot of quotes in my lifetime because I read a lot. That quote may have been the most profound quote in the season that I'm currently in, honest to God. And because I look at everybody now, like, is this person that I can see my future? Like future Kyle, 10 years from now. I look at that person right now in 2021. Is this a person that I see 10 years from now? Are their qualities, their characteristics, their behaviors, their actions, the ability to communicate or converse, their thought process, their perspectives, how they treat their kids, their family, how they move in the community? Is that 10-year Kyle now? Because I'm not operating, I'm about to give y'all the game. I'm not Kyle in 2021.
Right.
I have to operate like Kyle when I'm 38, not 28. Because if I operate now like a 38-year-old, when I'm 38-year-old, I've accomplished all of the things that my 48-year-old self, that's how you cut 10 years off your life. You want to cut 10 years off your life? Operate now, your 10-year self.
That's a very Benjamin Hardy thing to say because he talks about that. And personality isn't permanent as well. It's like all of whatever you say you want 10 years from now, what does that person, the person that is, what do they like to do? What do they watch on TV? How do they treat their family? What do they value? Like all of those things are what you think about now because it does create that person because you're acting as that person would act.
Because I feel like even today, it got emotional today. And I almost had to turn up.
I did.
But then I recognized, like, as I was driving in my car, I was like, is this Kyle now that's responding this way? Or would Kyle 10 years from now be proud of how you responded this way? And I had to check myself. And then I had to come back and be like, look, I apologize for how I came off.
Let me ask you this, because you brought this up in another podcast. I don't know if that podcast has aired at all by this time. But you bring it up. Was that you? You said you were talking to a therapist, and they said that was you, right?
Is that 12-year-old?
Who was that responded to
I
that?
think that was Kyle, probably like in 2018, 2019. And I feel like, 2018, 2019 was with a specific person, and the person that triggered that reaction today reminds me of that specific person.
True.
You see what I'm saying?
That is
so
true.
I have to now identify, does that person that I'm surrounding myself remind me of 10 years from now, or
like why does
or 4 years ago?
Why does that person have the ability to bring out that version?
Exactly.
So then why is that person still
here, still present? So you got to look at, like, anybody that's listening right now, man, like, you got to look at your relationships right now and really just ask yourself one question. Does this person align with my future? Actually not, scratch that, because y'all all think, oh yeah, we can get it. Does this person remind you of your future self? Or remind you of them good old college days, or remind you of you popping off and it's okay, or remind you of when you was cheating and that's the person that you could laugh about it with, or remind you when you was out here spending money and you don't have any investments. Like, I had to check one of my little ones last night when she was asking for a $600 Versace robe, straight up. And I'm like, do you have stocks? You just graduated college and the first thing you asking for is a $600 robe? You don't even have a job yet. Where are our priorities? But if I didn't check her like that, I wouldn't have got that thank you text this morning. Because you may look at it at the moment and it feels uncomfortable. But if you really challenge people on what they need to be doing or how they need to be thinking, the next day, maybe the next month, the next year, they'll see it and now they'll recreate that action or activity.
No, that's true. That's true. I think that takes a lot of discipline and reflection. Yeah. That some people don't want to do.
I think as I've gotten older,
because that's uncomfortable,
I reflect more. Shout out, I feel like I'm giving like shout outs to everybody. The Jocelyn and Aaron Freeman episode 5, yes, shout out to episode 4, excuse me. And they were talking about like your argument hangover time. And I feel like I'm really operating in that space. So if I get into it with someone or even get into it with myself, I'm not allowing that hangover process to stretch any further than it deserves to be stretched. Like, that hangover will not push me in a space that I don't need to be in. Yeah. It's not going to control me anymore.
That's an amazing conversation. Y'all listen to that episode if you have not heard it. Because I think in talking to them about their book and about that whole concept, which was new to me, but a great name for it, I think it made me reconceptualize how you deal with arguments, because a lot of times somebody says something, somebody else says something, that it was inappropriate, but then it's like, well, I don't want to be the first one to say something. I don't want to be, or you just like, okay, well, I don't want to talk to you. I'll talk to you later. And then y'all both just sitting there angry, like in the meantime, and it's making everything worse because you're not talking to each other, but like you're telling yourself all of these things, and then you're like adding in this extra stuff, and the more time you have to think about negative stuff, it becomes bigger. And so if you can decrease the time that you come back together and move forward, it's like you prevented all that negative buildup.
I was reading something a few weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago, and it was talking about how the smallest things, if we don't rectify the small things, it's going to be able to create a massive like destruction within our lives, right? Yeah. And it was talking about this story. I think it was 1974. One of a chartered plane. I don't remember if it was Delta, one of the airlines. They were flying and doing like a tour over Antarctica, right? And the traffic control were off 26 degrees. Or 2 degrees east, and or something like it was 2 degrees. They were off on their little measure, whatever. I don't even know what it's called. Any pilot, comment on the section below, like what it's actually called.
Is it a compass code? What is it?
The compass. They were off 2 degrees, so it pushed them 26 degrees or 26 miles east. So they were off 2 degrees. 2 degrees. It pushed them 26 miles east. So that's not a lot. but
Yeah.
that's like here. That's like an hour drive.
Yeah.
Right. So it pushed them 26 miles east. So what happened is when the plane was flying over, they were doing their last like lap so that they can see the glaciers and everything in Antarctica. The pilots didn't recognize that when they were coming through the clouds, they were on top of a volcano. So when they were coming through the clouds, they didn't recognize that they were 26 miles east from their specific, like their desired location. So they were sitting on top of they were coming through and on top of an active volcano. So the volcano erupted. And I mean, it's not a happy story, but obviously, you know, the volcano erupted. They ended up in the volcano. Hopefully I'm telling the story right. Long story short, everybody on the plane died.
Right.
And it's such a profound story to me because 2 degrees pushed you 26 miles east and killed everybody on the plane.
Yeah.
So when you think about your life, when you think about anybody, when you're thinking about your life, what are the small things that you need to rectify now that are creating a volcano eruption within your life?
No,
Who are
that's
the
true.
people? Maybe it's just one person, but it's creating eruptions in your relationships.
Over and over again. Yeah.
What is the one action or the activity that you keep doing that it's okay, but it's really not okay?
And that's the thing. It's like we try to trivialize things that we want to do.
Facts.
And so it's like, oh, that small lie or that small...
The little stuff.
Yeah, or just not showing up sometimes because I'm tired and I just don't want to show up. Or just what those little decisions, like you said, little decisions that you make can really take you off course.
Let me give it to you. I got a question for you.
Go ahead.
So I love how you said off course. So it's, how are you piloting your life? And what feedback are you receiving to correct your course? Because you are off course. And how long have you been off course? So that's 3 questions I want people to ask. Right? So when you're thinking about it, anybody listening right now, how often do you check your guidance system?
Yeah.
How long have you been off course? What feedback are you receiving to correct your course? And how are you piloting your life? So you could take one of those.
So what was the first one again?
How are you piloting your life?
So I talk about this a lot. I feel like this season, I'm very spiritual led and like, you know, I'm all into, the energy and all this stuff. I don't feel like energy ever lies though. I don't think energy has ever lied to me. And so when I feel like something is off, I may not have the proof. I may not have the verbiage to really express how I'm feeling, but energy never lies. And then God never lies. He has never lied to me. Any situation where, and it's still with the energy, I mean, any situation where I've heard or felt him and he showed me through energy or through actions, like small actions, again, like the 2 degrees. Sometimes you see something in somebody and it's just a 2 degree, something is off by 2 degrees. And you be like, no, but I know
it's
this
taking
person.
me to over a volcano.
Yeah, and it really is. It's moving you 26 miles over the
Facts.
volcano. And so I think the one question that maybe should be added is, what are you being guided by? Who are you being guided by?
That's good.
Because-
Who is flying your plane?
Exactly. Are you flying your plane? Are you letting somebody else fly your plane into the volcano?
Because when you think about it, right, and anybody could probably attest to this, a lot of the issues that you go through in relationships are not you and the other person.
Which just sucks.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
So you're allowing someone else to pilot your love for someone else.
Yeah.
That's not even included on this ride.
Yeah.
You're letting a passenger, you're opening
Opening the cockpit.
You're opening the cockpit, allowing a passenger that is blind and deaf to come in and fly your
the plane for you.
Shout out to all my blind and deaf people. I promise. Like anybody in the comment section, I'm not that guy. I was just trying to create more of an experience. But
oh my God. But really, that's what
Literally.
it is. It's like you said this in the first season. Like sometimes, do you remember what I'm about to say? Sometimes you have people. You have the roofer that laid the roof. You trying to have them now hang the curtains inside.
Literally,
you
all
got
of
them living in your guest bedroom. Like you got them just like hanging along for the ride, and they've already filled their purpose. And it's time for them to go on to the next job. Yeah.
And so, this is the crazy thing, man. We all talk about like our standards are high, our expectations are high, and we live this private jet lifestyle, but you're allowing people. You can't book a private jet for $300. You can't book a private jet for Spirit prices. Yo, shout out to Spirit. Nah, because their planes, yo, my pops, my pops said I will never fly. He flew Spirit one time. And we're definitely not going to get a sponsorship.
I know. Now you messing that up.
And he said, yo, it was like riding on a Vietnam plane. Like literally. But like literally, you can't, if you're chartering a plane, you can't pay those prices. So why are you allowing people on your private jet that can only afford Spirit prices?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we're going to go on a commercial.
Welcome back, guys. We normally don't take commercial breaks when it's just me and Kyle.
No,
That's how
don't.
you know it's something going
It's
on
getting
here.
Spicy in here. Yo, anybody riding to work right now, pay attention. Stop pulling out your phone to take notes. You can come back later. But I want you, yo, anybody that's actually watching this right now, I want you to share this with somebody. Because, you know, as we come back after the commercial, I want you to really identify how or who, like you said earlier, Kiana, who was chartering your plane? Mm-hmm. Who was flying your plane right now? Who was piloting your plane, your life, right? And then I want you to think about how often do you actually check your guidance system? And that's an important question, because you complain when you're sitting in the airport. You complain when there's a delay on your plane because they got to put gas, they got to change something out. You want this amazing experience when you're just up in wheels up in 5 and you're headed out. But if there was that one issue that they didn't take time to fix, your plane would crash. But there's things that you're not taking time to fix, and your plane is continuing to crash every single time you get onto that thing.
And let me say this, because I'm very vocal about saying like I'm spirit-led and all these things. You can't say you're spirit-led if you don't seek guidance from God. If you're not recalibrating, if you're not praying, if you're not fasting, if you're not doing all these things. Like, yeah, God can do amazing things, prayer can do amazing things, but if you're not actively making sacrifice, because sacrifice is a part of that, and you're just wanting to go on your own accord and do what you want to do, you don't say you're spirit-led. Don't say it.
That's good. I feel like when you're spirit-led, it helps to guide your destination. But you first have to identify, talk to God, and you first have to understand what that destination is.
Yeah.
Because if you understand what the destination is, you create a roadmap, a blueprint to that destination using that compass that I couldn't figure out what it was called earlier. You then recognize and ask yourself those questions of, am I off course?
Yeah.
And then once you identify if you're off course or not off course, you got to ask yourself, well, how long have I been off course?
Yeah. Where did I go off course?
Where on my map did I go off course? Was it when I reconnected with that person that should have been out of my life? Was it when I allowed that new person into my life? Was it when I left that job before I was actually ready to move into entrepreneurship? When was it I left entrepreneurship because it wasn't like we were talking about earlier, the stats weren't showing. So when did your life, or when did your destination start to get a little haywire?
Yeah.
Like, when did it start to get a little cloudy?
And then what was going on when you got off course?
I don't think a lot of people do that self-work though.
Yeah.
And I'm charging everybody right now. I'm charging everybody right now to do that work. Because for you to be able to get back on course, for you to be able to choose the right pilot, because this is deep. Everybody's not the CEO. Just because you started the business doesn't mean you are adequately equipped to be the CEO of your company. You may be just a great marketer. You may just have vision or whatever the case may be, but you may not have any leadership capabilities, and that's fine. You can still build a very successful company. But the reality of it is that you may not need to be the pilot of your plane.
In that instance, yeah.
Like, if you're married, your wife may run the show, and you got to kind of take a back seat in certain things. If your husband may run the show in certain areas, you know, God should be definitely the first pilot of your life, you know. But the reality of it is that who do you need to be the pilot of your life right now? And what are the qualifications that you need that person to have?
Yeah.
And is the person that is currently piloting your life, do they have those qualifications? And a lot of you are piloting your life, but you don't have the qualifications to be able to get you to your destination.
And one thing that you said, and I don't think you even realized the greatness of it.
Thank you.
Is when you were saying like, when did you get off course? Like, what was the action that got you off course? But then like, what made you consider going off course? Because it's one thing to look at decisions, but then why? Like, what else was going on that made you go into that direction? Like, so in the instance where you're like, okay, well, why did you leave entrepreneurship? What was going on that made you feel like that was the right choice? When it was, why did you accept this person?
Who was around you allowing that?
Right. Or like the first example you gave was like, letting someone back into your life. Well, what were you telling yourself about why it was acceptable to bring this person back? So it's not even just you went off course, but what other factors made you feel like going in that direction was preferable to staying on track?
That's 100. I feel like that's a great perspective, right? And this is why you got to have guidance checks. And this is why the preparation process is important. This is why before you're looking at the scoreboard, you got to look at yourself. You got to look at your systems. Everybody wants to drive a Ferrari, but then you pull up the hood and the Ferrari doesn't even have an engine. So it's sitting in the driveway. It's sitting at the mall. It's sitting at the gas station.
It looks nice.
It looks amazing. You're taking pictures. People are coming up to you, but then you've been sitting there for 6 weeks and it's like, damn, I always see that person in that same spot. And because you don't have any engine. So then it's like, you may look good and I see you at the same spot and 6 years later, you're still there because you didn't have an engine, because you never, when the engine check light kept coming on, you kept just saying, I'm going to do it tomorrow. So anybody right now that's still with us, right? I need you to check your guidance systems. I need you to look I need you to look under the hood of your car. I need you to identify the requirements and the policies and the procedures and all of the different things that your piloting experience needs to be. And if you don't have that experience, then you need to find a mentor. Then you need to find a coach. You need to identify who you need to unfollow and identify who you need to follow. And when you start following these people, I need you to create an energy where people would want to start following you.
Right.
And I'm not just saying social media is deeper than that. It's bigger than that. Who's following you? Who comes to you for advice? Real advice. And who do you go to that is cracked your ceiling, that's going to help you crack your ceiling and get you to that next level? Stop looking at the scoreboard and understand that the process, the preparation is going to help you. It's going to help you perform. This is Around the Way podcast, and we'll see you guys next episode.
Bye, guys.